It's time for Sully's College Football Page on 98.9 WXCO, online at WXCO.FM, mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app. Sully's College Football Page is brought to you by the Hilltop Bar, Advantage Insurance, Tommy's Express Car Wash, Dwayne's Cover It All, Buck's Golf Shop, Jim Kreshak Jewelry, Big Fat Design, Sun Printing, Lot Nose, the Eye Clinic of Wisconsin, Peterson Kramer Funeral Home, Menstner Hardwoods, Krasowski Dental, the Cloverbelt Credit Union, April Rosebergy EXP Realty, France Propane, Subway, Webco of Wausau, the Kuhn Hearing Center, Carmelo's and Rip Mountain Golf Course, Joe Rader Towing, the Dirks Group, the Intermission Lounge, the Brokaw Credit Union, Champion Insurance, Trap River Golf Club, Central Wisconsin School of Ballet, Red Clover Market, Mountain Bay Auto Care, Charlie's Bar, the People's State Bank, the Mint Cafe, North End Pub, and the Travel Leaders. It's time now for Sully's College Football Page on 98.9 WXCO. And welcome, another edition of Sully's College Football Page on 98.9 WXCO, online at WXCO.FM, mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app. And of course, Sully's now a TV star. We're on YouTube, youtube.com. Go to the 98.9 WXCO channel. You can watch this show. You can watch the previous shows as well. If you can binge watch Sully. So like your favorite series, you could just go back and see all the shows this season on YouTube. But it is a beautiful Saturday morning. It's a big Saturday, of course, with the Badgers getting set to take on Alabama. So a great way to start off our day is Sully's College Football Page, and a great way to start our day is to introduce the man behind the website, Sully. Dan Sullivan. Good morning.
Chad, it's always a pleasure being here, but that lead-in, we're probably going to lose most of our audience.
Hey, let's jump right in because last Saturday when we were previewing the Badgers in Middle Tennessee, and I believe the point spread was 28.5, if I'm not mistaken, and watching that game midway through the third quarter, I would have bet my entire small fortune that I have. I don't have much, right now in the bank, but I would have bet my small fortune that there's no way the Badgers would cover, and yet they were able to cover 42-10 against Middle Tennessee. But I will also say that I don't think that Middle Tennessee team is going to win a lot of games this year, and there's still a lot to be concerned about with the Wisconsin Badgers.
Yeah, Middle Tennessee, the best thing you can say about them right now, in fairness, is they're bad. they're just not very good. Now they were 0-12 on third down last week against Austin Peay.
Yep.
Now, to their credit, Austin Peay went in and played Georgia, played them fairly well.
I noticed that
it was
too.
27-6, and yet. And we've talked about Rick Stockstill, a guy I really thought a lot of as a coach. He was at Middle Tennessee for a lot of years, had a couple lean years, and then everybody wanted him out. Since then, they've been horrible. They just have not been able to play. And so I think when we talked during the game, we were talking about lack of playmakers, and I think your point there is pretty much right on point. And then they found a way and gradually separated themselves. But even though 42-10 sounds right, it was not overly impressive performance.
And the thing was, it was 14-10, and then at the start of the second half, Middle Tennessee took the football. They had it for about 6-7 minutes, and then they had the overturned first down, and then the Badgers got back-to-back good plays on third and short and fourth and short, and then 2 plays later they scored, and it looked like it took completely the air out of Middle Tennessee at that point.
Yeah, it's funny on the road. Middle Tennessee is probably someone who's looking for things to go wrong at this point. And when that happened, it seemed like they just had lost any kind of confidence or belief that they were going to be able to compete.
What about the quarterback, Danny O'Neill, the transfer who played as a true freshman at San Diego State last year? 23 of 27, 283 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. very efficient, I would say.
Yeah, I think for his development from 1 week to the next, it was impressive. But Chad, you never are what your record says you are. You got to look at who you're competing against. And I don't know that there would be a distance in the United States that would be as great as the distance he's going to see today down in Tuscaloosa with that Alabama defense to what he saw last week versus Middle Tennessee.
The Badgers, simply put, are struggling to run the football. I mean, it's, against Middle Tennessee, they hardly had any rush yards, especially in the first half, but generally it was not a great night. They ended with 153, but again, it was a lot later in the game, and that is really concerning against Middle Tennessee. Like you say, you got to be able to run the football. I mean, I saw a game last night in the high school ranks where one team ran the football, the other team had a hard time running the football, and that meant that 3/4 of the game, one of the teams had the football. If the Badgers are not able to run the football at least a little bit against Alabama, better than they did last week, it's going to be a long day. But last week, I was not impressed with the way the Badgers ran the football.
No, and I think if you're talking maximum college football, things that really fit, and you hear a lot of the coaches say it, and you hear them say it often, you got to be able to run the ball and stop the run.
Yep.
If you can do that, you're going to put yourself in a position to where you can win games. And 153 yards against Middle Tennessee could translate to minus yards against Alabama, because they got Georgia next week. And so, the focus here is going to be hit them hard, and then get people out of that game if they're able. Because if the board thinks he's under pressure now, if he's winning that game 48-0 and somebody goes down, he's going to get annihilated in the media. So look for them to come out, get after the Badgers right away, try to use that home crowd, get it going. And, if Wisconsin is going to be in the game, Chad, they've got to get a turnover here or there, that, and a short field, something that allows them to get on the board early. Maybe then they can turn it into a game.
Is this right? The Badgers did not have a penalty last week?
None. No penalties.
And I think for this week, that late first half turnover was big. It sort of felt like the Badgers were starting to establish themselves. That allowed Middle Tennessee to make it a one-score game at halftime. The Badgers cannot turn the ball over today, can they?
No, if you're talking about the potential effect of a turnover, and we're not talking about what happens, but the potential, you're talking a 16-point swing. The touchdown and the potential too that you can no longer can get, and yet they can go down and score and go for two, and it's a 16-point swing. That's why, when you start to look at turnover battles, 3-1 or 4-2, those two negative turnovers can result in one team winning and one team just not getting it done.
All right, let's completely turn the page on Middle Tennessee, and let's talk about today, because it's for a long time, Badger fans were looking forward to this home and home against Alabama. And then between last year and what's going on this year with the Badger football program, it has not been quite as, you'd say, excitable for a lot of folks. Last year, 42-10 at Camp Randall. Game the Badgers actually started off pretty well, but then kind of fell off the edge of the earth late in the game. Alabama 1-1. They lost to Florida State in their opener. I think that the fact that Alabama lost that game makes it even tougher on Wisconsin, because now Alabama knows they can't afford another loss, especially before SEC play begins.
Yeah, and really, if you're gonna go through the gauntlet of the SEC, they're going to run into, I believe they have Texas this year later. They have Georgia shortly. They've always got Tennessee. So the reality here is you're probably going to get beat somewhere along the way. Losing to Florida State hurt them. They need Florida State to win out and win some big games in the ACC. Maybe beat a Clemson. Maybe beat SMU, beat somebody, Miami, who's playing at a pretty high level. So, yeah, they're kind of back against it. And now a little bit the eye test people expect them to come in today against the Badgers and simply have their way. The 20.5 or whatever the spread is, I know it's come down some. They expect them to cover and a whole lot more.
Yeah, frankly, I'm a little surprised it is that low. But at the same time, Wisconsin still is a Big Ten program. Wisconsin still has been in these situations before. The Badgers, they did beat Alabama one time before, haven't they?
They beat them in
been
19,
a long time.
Yeah. Well, you and I weren't at the game. It was 1928, and they won 15-0. But, they've got one of the biggest men in college football, a kid named Caden Proctor, who's 6'7", 366. He's out. So whoever was over him, I'm sure is very happy about that. And Ryan Williams, their all-world receiver, got hurt, concussed actually, in the Florida State game. Didn't play last week, and now they're describing him as likely. I don't know how much we're going to see him because they want him ready to go next week against Georgia. So they're missing some people. And like we've talked, because of NIL and the transfer portal, they don't have the same kind of depth that they once had where they just could roll out another 5-star. So they're a little different that way. So we may or may not see Ryan Williams. We won't see Caden Proctor. The leading receiver right now is Jeremy Brown, Jeremy Bernard, who's about 211 yards on 11 receptions. Very good receiver.
How different is Alabama this year with Ryan Grubb rejoining DeBoer on his staff? Is it too early to say? What's your sense of the Alabama offense?
Well, one of the things you heard, and now how true this is, I don't know, but some of the boosters were complaining pretty loudly about before the Florida State game, they were seeing players in the hotel lobby at like 1 o'clock. And that was something under Saban you never, ever saw. So I think that the noise they made and then the subsequent loss to Florida State, you saw the results against ULM. Now, it was 73-0. They went out and took care of business, but I bet nobody was up late. And so, I think that it's a little early, but I think those two, if they can weather some of the, the craziness that goes on with that fan base, they could get this rolling and get it to where the comfort levels are really more like they were at Washington, and they can get focused on the the O&D.
Will the Badgers be able to move the football against Alabama?
It's going to be challenged based on what I've seen so far. I would use the word unlikely. The Badgers are going to have some breaks in this game. They're going to have some plays on special teams. Simpson is going to have to make some errors here. Their quarterback, their leading runner right now is Kevin Riley. Jam Miller rather, has not played since that first. He hasn't played at all this year. So, whether or not this game is going to be competitive, I really got to say, Ted, we're going to see it right away.
And I think that, the game that I go back to is, maybe a similar feel as a lot of the negativity going into the Oregon game last year, and the Badgers had a good chance to win that football game. So maybe a situation where the expectations are incredibly low is a good spot for Wisconsin.
And that's a good point. And you never know, that's why you play the games. I think for the Badgers, they're going to have to get some turnovers. They're going to have to make some plays on special teams, and they're going to have to shorten fields, because for them to go out, because Alabama is a different football team than Oregon. Oregon is more of a quick strike from distance. Bama's going to get in your face and roar at you. So
what are the Badgers going to cover? I'm not going to ask you if they're going to win at this point, unless you're really optimistic.
I think they can cover. They can do that, provided they do what we said they did, and they got to do it early. They've got to get a turnover. They've got to get on the scoreboard early and get some juices flowing, because Alabama right now is on a mission. I think there's been enough criticism of that team from their fan base that their focus is going to be pretty high coming in. And it is the Big Ten. And let's be very frank, the SEC does not like the Big Ten. So they're going to come after him.
I would say that is very, very true. So Badgers and Alabama kicking off at 11 a.m. Where is the game? What channel is the game on? I mean, you know.
I don't know. Did I put that on?
I don't see it. Let's see. Where is it? It is on ABC at 11 o'clock.
Oh,
so
there you
ABC. Go. So I looked down on I know there's somewhere you can always find it. So
yeah, I try to, that goes all the way back to my old buddy Nick Ryan. He always used to say, put the time and channel. So I have for about 12 years.
Absolutely. So 11 o'clock on ABC, Badgers and the Crimson Tide. Hey, lots of Big Ten action. In fact, again, a little bit of conference action as well. And we'll talk about that coming up next. It's Sully's college football page on 98.9 WXCO.
Choose an agency with true 5G coverage. Advantage Insurance of Wausau. Great companies, great agents, great service, great rates, and great claims results. At Advantage Insurance, they support our local community and back you always. Call Advantage Insurance today for all of your insurance needs, or go to AdvantageInsuranceWausau.com. They offer top-rated coverage and the best agents that provide you a true 5G experience for the best total coverage for all your insurance needs.
Chief, we've got a situation.
What is it?
Trouble at the naval base, sir. I'll put it on the screen.
Jiminy Christmas, what happened to all our boat covers?
That's not the worst of it, sir.
No!
Afraid so, sir.
Not the boat upholstery, too. All those holes? It looks like Swiss cheese.
It's funny you mention that, sir. We found the culprit.
All right, Mouse, who are you working for? The Russians? Take him to the brig and get Agent Dwayne from CIA on the horn now. Dwayne's covered off. Dwayne speaking. Agent Dwayne, your country needs you. A terrorist mouse has chewed up every single boat cover and piece of upholstery in the Navy.
I'll patch up what I can and replace what I can.
Agent Dwayne, you're a great American.
Just doing my job.
Boat covers, seat upholstery, camper, deck, or patio awnings. When you need something covered or upholstered, call the CIA. Dwayne's Cover It All. Commercial accounts are welcome. Call or email Dwayne. Visit Dwayne'sCoverItAll.com.
Tommy's Express Car Wash at 102 Bridge Street in Wausau and 1611 Schofield Avenue in Weston has the tools and experience to keep your car clean inside and out. Our wash packages let you pay for the services you want, including Tommy Garden Body Wax, wheel cleaning and tire gloss, an underbody flush and spot-free rinse. Give your vehicle the cleaning it deserves at Tommy's Express at 102 Bridge Street in Wausau and 1611 Schofield Avenue in Weston.
It takes a lot to impress us at Jim Krishock Jewelers. I mean, we see gorgeous diamonds, gemstones, and incredible jewelry every day that we've chosen for our selection. But when a diamond jewelry line like this one comes along, well, our eyes really widen up and our mouths drop open and our hearts beat a little faster. Yours will too when you stop in and check out our Fire and Ice collection of diamonds and diamond jewelry. Their slogan is bigger, brighter, whiter. And it's a difference you can see, which is the most important. Each Fire and Ice diamond is cut to maximize the performance of light coming into and leaving the diamonds to create amazing sparkle and brilliance. So whether you're planning on getting engaged or upsizing your current diamond, or just want something completely new with more sparkle and dazzle than you've ever seen before, stop in and check out our Fire and Ice collection. It's exclusively available right here at Jim Krishock Jewelers at our one and only location on Rib Mountain Drive in Wausau.
Joe Rader Towing in Wausau offers 24-hour-a-day towing, blackout service, and roadside assistance throughout central Wisconsin. You can count on Joe Rader's experienced team to get to you fast. Family owned and operated. When you need a tow, call Joe at 715-212-4762.
The Intermission Bar, located in the heart of downtown Wausau, is a warm, friendly, comfortable spot to enjoy time with old friends and meet new ones as well. Free live music 3 nights a week featuring some of the Midwest's finest talent. The Intermission, a social establishment.
And welcome back. It is Sully's College Football Page on 98.9 WXCO. Online at WXCO.FM, mobile devices, and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app and at YouTube, youtube.com, and on the 98.9 WXCO channel. With Sully, I'm Chad Holmes. Time to look at the Big Ten. We'll start off west of the Mississippi, and a couple of games last night, and the one we were kind of talking about in the break. Wow. I mean, UCLA, 16.5-point favorites last night at home, and they lay an egg. They lose to the Lobos of New Mexico. New Mexico goes into the Rose Bowl and beats UCLA 35-10. And I mean, right now, UCLA is a program that, again, we talked that late last year, they went to Nebraska, earned a win. They had a good win against Rutgers on the road. It looked like they were starting to build a little something after a slow start. Boy, they are just flat on their back right now.
Well, they're 0-3. And if memory serves,
you're closer to that microphone.
Oh, sorry, buddy. if memory serves, they were favored in every one of those games. Last night, like you say, 16.5. And here's the other thing about it, Chad. In the fourth quarter, they were outscored 21-0. You know, in watching the game, you kind of had the sense that UCLA sat down, which is just a horrible look. You know, you're losing to a team that you clearly have better athletically, better skill-wise, should be mentally tougher.
Spending a lot more money on.
Yeah, there's that too, you know. And I'll tell you, New Mexico looked to be better in any which way you want athletically, from a skill set, from a toughness set. And then in the fourth quarter, they just pounded them 21-0. And UCLA had nothing left.
Also, last night, talk about a pounding. It was a pounding as the battle for Indiana, and I think the Sycamores needed Larry Bird because
he could have helped them. Yeah,
they fell to Indiana 73-0. So again, I mean, you've talked about Indiana and the fact that they're not really playing anybody this year before the Big Ten.
Yeah, 2 years in a row, Chad, they have not played a non-conference game against the Power Four. And last night, Indiana outgained Indiana State by 603 yards. You know, it was 680-77. So Indiana, you know, and Cignetti's not a guy that takes a lot of prisoners, you know.
No, he does not.
And the quarterbacks that came in, they're brothers. And they just lit them up for 7 touchdown passes. I don't think they threw a pick. You know, I mean, it was just a beatdown in every sense of the word.
Well, look to today. Real quickly, Washington 2-0. They have a bye this week. How good is Washington?
Washington is a very interesting team. Maybe right now the most interesting team because there are so many unknowns about them. Judd Fish is a very good coach, came from Arizona. And by the way, Arizona now is 3-0. They won last night.
Yes, I saw that.
And, you know, they hired Brent Brennan, the guy who was at San Jose State, who you and I talked about, who had done real good work there. And then when they hired him, the fan base, you know, they kind of lost their minds. You know, but anyway, they're back going, you know, Arizona is.
And that was interesting real fast about Arizona. I remember reading an article before the start of the season talking about some of the coaches that were already a little bit under pressure. He was one of them after just 1 year because they took such a step back last year.
Yes.
Obviously, it's a good start for him to get a little bit of that heat off very quickly.
That's a good point, Jeff, because everybody thought that he was going to do at Arizona what Kenny Dillingham did at Arizona State, you know, and so it was kind of reversed there. But anyway, Washington under Jed Fish, who left Arizona, that's how we get down that road. But anyway, he, I'm very interested to see how they do going forward because they're going to make some noise in the Big Ten.
You have Oregon and Northwestern, 11 o'clock on Fox. You can flip back and forth between ABC and Fox with the Badgers on ABC, and then the Big Ten game between Oregon and Northwestern on Fox. Oregon off to a very good start. They've come out and they have, you said, take no prisoners. They've taken no prisoners so far. Mike Gundy, I think, is still feeling the sting from last week's game. And then Northwestern, of course, 1-1. They did lose that game down against Tulane. But this one, it's always an interesting game at 11 o'clock at Northwestern, because usually there's not that great energy. But maybe this being a national TV game, the big noon kickoff on Fox, maybe a little bit more energy at Northwestern. And again, it's like basically a 9 a.m. start for the kids from Oregon.
Yeah, and whatever Danny Lanning is doing with this crossing the country, they did that 4 times last year and were 4-0. So they every time they came across country, they won. And I'm interested in watching Dante Moore, their quarterback, who's off to a very good start. He's thrown 5 touchdowns in 2 games and no picks, so he's off and running. And Northwestern is going to be up against it because of the speed that they're going to be playing against on both sides of the ball.
Also, you have Houston Christian at Nebraska. No line, fortunately. FCS opponent. FS1 at 11 if you're really curious.
Houston Christian a couple of years ago was Houston Baptist. And I got to tell you, on my site, they've kind of raised havoc because I'm not sure if I should go back and archive it. But then if I do that, I can't find them because ESPN doesn't. And so anyway, this is not going to be pretty. I think with Dylan Raiola, he's another guy that's off to a great start. 6 TDs, no picks, and he is right now the leading passer in the Big Ten. So to say that, Houston Christian is up against it would be one of the great understatements we're going to make this morning.
Another game that does not exactly jump off the page as must-see TV tonight is in Iowa City, the Iowa Hawkeyes and UMass. Iowa 1-1 after a tough loss against their rivals, the Cyclones of Iowa State, last week. First time they had lost in Ames in, I think, 6 meetings, because they had done the job whenever they went on the road against I-State, but not last week. 35.5-point favorites, Big Ten Network at 6:30 tonight.
And UMass is a mess. They got beat by an FCS team last week. And so things just are not working out for them. When the previous coach from Michigan, Brown, the assistant, to Harbaugh, his wife, when he was let go, came out and said, these people won't spend a penny, and we're playing with an FCS team. Well, she was kind of accurate because they got beat by one last night or last week. So this is not going to be pretty, because Nebraska, I think, is in the 3rd year with Matty Rule, and man, they're looking to take people apart. So we'll see what happens.
And then finally, late tonight, if you're looking for a nightcap, ESPN 9:30, a good one between Minnesota and California. Minnesota 2-0. Cal from the ACC 2-0. Former Badger defensive coordinator Justin Wilcox is the coach of the Golden Bears. But 1.5-point favorites are the Gophers, so a very intriguing non-conference matchup.
Yeah, and I like the lead in the Golden Gophers against the Golden Bears. So this game clearly is golden. This may be, of the games we've looked at so far, this may be the most balanced game we're talking about here. Justin Wilcox has Wisconsin ties, really good coach. Ben has done well wherever he's been. And so, PJ not supposed to be very good this year, but they're rowing the boat and they're 2-0, and we'll see what happens today.
That is the West side of the Big Ten Conference. We're going to head a little bit more east coming up, and some interesting matchups. One team that's already doubled their win total from a year ago, getting a national spotlight later this afternoon in West Lafayette. So we'll talk about that one and the other games going on in the Big Ten Conference as well. With Sully, I'm Chad Holmes. It's Sully's College Football Page on 98.9 WXCO.
I only travel once or twice a year, but when I do, I go big. Exotic places, incredible hotels, new experiences. It has to be memorable. That's why I call Travel Leaders of Wausau. They get me, and they take care of all the details, so I don't have to worry about a thing.
Travel Leaders gets you, and we get you there. Travel better. Call Travel Leaders of Wausau at 715-355-4437.
And can't forget the sandals and the right sunglasses.
Hello, my name is Steve Brickner. Here at Brickner Motors in Little Chicago, we'll help you order your brand new Chrysler, Dodge, Ram, or Jeep and get it equipped the way you want it and the color you've always dreamed of. That means you won't overpay for something you don't want. Quality vehicles and competitive prices are what keep people coming back again and again. Make the drive out to Brickner Motors on Little Chicago's northeast side and let our family take care of your family.
You can count on us. Yes, you can.
The Kuhn Hearing Center is a family-owned and operated hearing care facility located at 1699 Schofield Avenue, Suite 106 in Schofield. Dr. Tim Kuhn has been practicing audiology in the greater Wausau-Weston area for 26 years. Dr. Kuhn works closely with several audiology agencies, including Signia Hearing Aids and Accessories, which provides access to the latest and most advanced technologies in the hearing industry. For more info, check them out online at kuhnhearing.com or call 715-298-5511.
Big Fat Designs can give your company the cutting-edge look it needs to attract customers and stand out from the rest. From websites and print designs to logos and letterheads, Big Fat Designs is your effective and affordable marketing solution. E-commerce, online customer database, video and audio players, Big Fat Designs does it all. And the best part, you deal with someone locally to talk with, to meet with, working hands-on towards your success. Big Fat Designs in Wausau. Find out more online at bigfatdesigns.com.
It's Sully's college football page on 98.9 WXCO, online at WXCO.FM, mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app and on YouTube, youtube.com and the 98.9 WXCO channel. With Sully, I'm Chad Holmes, and time now to look at the rest of the Big Ten conference schedule for today. And of the 8 games featuring teams east of the Mississippi River, 4 of which are matchups against FCS schools. So we're still waiting, I think, to get into the real meat of this conference season.
Yeah, you know, the conference schedule is typically where it where it starts. And so until then, it's hit and miss. And like you were saying, 4 or 5 Big Ten teams are not playing a Power 4 opponent in the non-conference. So that's why, you know, when people say you are what your record says you are, the response is no, you aren't, because you don't know who that non-conference schedule entailed.
Western Michigan at Illinois. And Illinois, very impressive, especially in the second half last week at Duke. This version of Brett Bielema's team looks like it could be for real.
Well, Luke Altmaier is arguably a top quarterback in the Big Ten. You know, people are going to talk about Drew Aller, or now Dylan Raiola's making a move. But I'll tell you, when you watch Atlouder play, or Altmaier, I'll get that in a minute, he really is playing at a high level. And you're right about Bielema. He has, you know, had all that success at Wisconsin. Then he went down and did good work at Arkansas. People forget that they had a lot of injuries, you know, and the Hog fans, for whatever reason, they kind of turned on him. But he is a good coach, and he's doing very good work so far at Illinois.
USC and Purdue, 2-0 versus 2-0. This is a CBS game at 2:30. And Purdue off to a good start under Barry Odom. USC doing what they have to do. Again, a little bit of pressure on Lincoln Riley after, again, a little bit of a dip for the Trojans. But for Purdue, it has to be exciting after such, I mean, you talk about depression. I think around West Lafayette last fall, a lot of depression because that team was so bad. And it looks like Barry Odom has them going on the right track. And I imagine with, the big national TV audience, there's going to be some juice at Ross 8 today.
Well, you know, I remember the last time that Purdue beat SC, it was 1967. And the reason I remember that so well is the Big Ten used to have a rule. You could not go to the Rose Bowl in back-to-back seasons, which was kind of a brain dead. I mean, as you look at it today, I think back then they were talking about hey, we want more people to experience the Rose Bowl.
And also, there was only one team that went to a bowl game back then.
That's another factor. Yes. And so you ended up that year, Michigan State, that was the infamous 10-10 tie. And they had Bubba Smith and Charles Thornhill, Webster. I mean, they were loaded.
So number 2 in the country.
Yeah, and they couldn't
No bowl
go.
game.
No bowl game. And Purdue had some guys that you probably will remember, Bob Greasy,
Yeah.
and a guy that I thought should have won the Heisman Trophy.
Leroy Kelly, right?
Leroy Keys.
Oh, Keys.
So,
Keys.
yeah, yes. And so they went out there and took care of business. They beat SC in a great game, 14-13. And, what then followed was they haven't beat him since. Every time they've played him, it's been a negative.
Well, maybe today's the day.
Well, they're 2-0. So is SC.
If they win today, then all of a sudden you got a Coach of the Year candidate.
Yeah, if they can find a way against SC, then you know what? It opens a lot of minds to a lot of possibilities.
Central Michigan and Michigan, 1-1. Michigan took a tumble last week at OU, Oklahoma. This one back in the big house, one of those games, again, that you talk about, the MAC games against the Big Ten. 27.5-point favorites are the Wolves. Big Ten Network at 11:30.
Yeah, Michigan has won 13 straight games against MAC teams. The last,
as well they should.
Yeah, okay, there is that.
Well, again, you look at the budgets.
yeah. I mean, Michigan spends the money. Last time they played these teams was 2013. Michigan won that game 59-9. So I don't look for the Wolves to have a lot of trouble with.
Well, I hope CMU wins because I work a lot with Wausau West Athletic Director BJ Brandt, and he played college football. He was a punter at Central Michigan.
And he, I worked. His wife was outstanding teacher, Kelly. Yeah, and I worked with her out at Hewitt. BJ was the punter of the decade on that or in that conference selection there. So yeah, very good athlete.
Absolutely. Then you have Ohio and Ohio State. Is this one going to be like Indiana and Indiana State? Ohio State 31.5-point favorites. Ohio, better team than Indiana State.
Yeah.
Peacock at 2:30 p.m.
Yeah, I was reading where Ohio State is like 58-1 against Ohio schools, and they lost a game to somebody who I don't even know if they're playing football anymore, and it was about almost 100 years ago. So the reality here is Ohio is a good team, and they'll compete. But it won't matter. They're gonna get beat.
Hey,
and it's
funding the athletic department.
Yeah, well,
this trip to the big house will give their athletic department a little bit of funding for some of those other sports as well.
Yeah,
look at the positive here.
Okay. When they do head over to Ohio State, I think the horseshoe's going to be rocking. Because of the in-state business.
Right.
And if you remember, it's been about 8 years now, the Ohio mascot attacked the Ohio State Brutus, and he pretty much, knocked him around. And, I remember the coach at the time was, the guy who had he was before he coached, who I'm talking about. I'm drawing a blank.
Frank Solich?
No, Ohio State.
Oh, Ohio State's coach.
Yeah.
John Cooper?
No, after him.
Jim Tressel?
Thank you. I knew I'd get that. Tressel said the mascot was day-to-day. So I'm sure the Ohio State fans are going to have a warm welcome for Ohio's mascot.
Villanova and Penn State. You sure this is not on the hardwood? Eastern Powers, Villanova more of the power on the hardwood. Penn State obviously more of the power on the gridiron. Both from Pennsylvania, and 1-0 Villanova. We talked about them starting a little later last week, and I'm sure we'll talk about them coming up in our rankings as well. No line FS1 at 2:30, but I know that Villanova is part of your FCS rankings. How good are they?
They're good. They have always been good. I think because of the basketball and because of the exposure the school gets, they recruit a little better than most of the FCS teams. Here's the other thing about this game. Drew Aller, because of the weapons he has around him, he's only thrown 3 touchdown passes this year, where some of the other guys have doubled that.
Sure.
And I think it's in part because of Singleton. They just have those runners that are so talented that Drew Aller's numbers are a little lower and a little bit misleading because of how the ball is distributed.
Another FCS opponent for a Big Ten team has Rutgers hosting Norfolk State. Shiano's team is 2-0. No line on this one. Big Ten Network at 2:30. Again, let me ask you, what is Rutgers going to get out of this game?
A win. They're trying. You can count one FCS opponent towards your 6. And, they're not sure how well they're going to do in the Big Ten, and so they schedule some of these games. Here's another team that's not playing a Power 4. So they're going to try to get 3 wins and then find a way in the Big Ten 9-game schedule to find another 3. So when you look at that, Chad, especially teams like Rutgers or Northwestern who may struggle, you're going to see this kind of thing. And actually, the last 2 years, the Big Ten, as you know, has won the national championship.
Mm-hmm.
If you go back 2 years, Michigan did not play a Power 4, or at the time a Power 5 non-conference, nor did Ohio State last year. That's why a lot of the people that are talking, this is Penn State, they're bringing that up, that they're not challenging themselves and are kind of skating into the Big Ten by not playing a power opponent.
And then we have another FCS opponent at a Big Ten school, this time another interstate battle, at least. I think that's probably the silver lining for some of these matchups. You have Towson 2-0, Maryland 2-0, 11 a.m. on Peacock. Maryland, we've sort of been a common thread here, a team that took a step back last year, saw their quarterback take off to Wisconsin, starting 2-0. How good is Maryland this year?
Maryland is typical of what you've seen from Maryland. They're good on the perimeter. Loxley has done a really, really solid job with that DMV. You and I have talked about that DC, Virginia, Maryland
And that's
area.
probably the biggest job for a coach there, isn't it? To make sure that you get your share of those great athletes from that area.
You better. Because I think for them, that area, people want to stay where mom and dad can see them play. And if you can lock that area down, you can get the kind of players that are going to be very successful in the Big Ten.
And the thing about it is, and I think I mentioned this before, I sometimes wonder the way that he has recruited there, if they were in the ACC, I think they'd be challenging for championships.
Well, I think if you look at the line of scrimmages, other than with a few exceptions, Miami, Florida State, Clemson, you kind of stop. Right now, Maryland's Olin D Lions would be able to compete, I think, successfully in the ACC. Competing in the Big Ten, you see lines like that we're talking about, maybe Maryland, or excuse me, maybe Miami's going to have a couple guys, Chad, that are as good or better than what they'll see in the Big Ten. But the reality is there is no question that they would be able to compete at a higher level versus ACC talent and trying to line up with the Big Ten.
All right, so that's the Big Ten for this weekend. Coming up next, we are going to start to look at some rankings, and just mentioned Villanova. I think we may hear from them again coming up in our next segment, as the FCS Top 15 will be coming up. We'll have the 10-game challenge coming up pretty soon, and then more rankings in the second hour as well. So still lots to come as we take you up to kickoff at 11 o'clock. It is Sully's College Football Page on 98.9 WXCO.
Thinking about changing to organic or natural foods? Then you need to stop at Red Clover Market at the Total Rental location in Weston. family-owned Red Clover Market, your healthy natural food store. Open Monday through Saturday. Looking for a part for your vehicle? Look to Hilltop Auto Wrecking in Wausau. Hilltop Auto Wrecking can help you find just about any part you need for your car, truck, or SUV. They have a great selection of auto glass and tires with lots of sizes ready to go. Hilltop Auto Wrecking is always looking to buy vehicles, so if you're stuck with an older junker, they can haul it away for cash. Hilltop Auto Wrecking, family owned and operated for over 40 years at 237-934 Del Rio Road, formerly 6806 North 33rd Street, Wausau. Call 715-675-3258.
For more than 60 years, Sun Printing has been Central Wisconsin's commercial printer of choice due to their commitment to quality, creative solutions, and dedicated service. Sun Printing's team offers you a wide spectrum of services. Whether you need offset, digital, large format, graphic design, or mailing, they print everything under the sun. No project is too big or too small. So give Sun Printing a call at 845-4911 or visit them online at sunprinting.com.
Since 1981, Lopnose has been Wausau's favorite sports bar. Grab a bit of Wausau's past while you're watching your favorite sports teams at their historic turn-of-the-century establishment. Lopnose is the perfect place to catch all the sports action on their 15 enormous flat-screen TVs, enjoy a night on the town with friends, or have a celebration in their private party room. A great place for birthdays, anniversaries, clubs, or meetings. Lopnose, Wausau's oldest and finest sports bar, 3rd Street, Wausau.
For over 40 years, Champion Insurance has been helping business owners protect themselves. They also offer protection for your home, auto, and other personal assets as well. Local family owned and operated. Champion Insurance. They got you covered. Schofield Avenue, Schofield.
Sully's college football page on 98.9 WXCO, online at WXCO.FM, mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app. Along with Sully, I'm Chad Holmes. Also, we need to always mention our in-studio engineer, Ian Welsh, pushing all the buttons, playing the bumper music, making sure we're on the air. Ian, thank you again for all you do.
You're welcome, Chad. Morning, Sully.
Hey, buddy.
So Ian over there on the other side of the glass. So right now it's time to start talking a bit about some of the rankings involving college football teams. We start off with the football championship series. And again, you can get the entire rankings by going to Sully's college football page.com. But so you, again, really dig in deep and you're able to pound into it. And one of the things that I think a lot of folks that listen to the show is that I think they learn a lot about the FCS and the kind of football that's being played and some of the teams that are powers within that part of the world of college football.
You know, and people don't always realize how good these programs are. I mean, there are teams that are in the FCS that could play with the lower part of many of the conferences in the group of five, and some of them, a few, could compete in conferences, with to the mid down in the Power Four. So the play is very good here.
Let's start with the bottom portion of the rankings. You got 15 Incarnate Word and then number 14 Jackson State, and both those teams are 1-1. From the Incarnate Word, from the Southland Conference, and then Jackson State from the SWAC.
Yeah, I think Jackson State now is arguably the best HBCU, the historically black colleges and universities program in the country. And that goes back to Dion.
Mm-hmm.
When Dion got there, their attendance, Chad, went from like 24,000 to over 40. They were outdrawn any number of teams in the Big Ten and became very, very good. Got to what they call the Celebration Bowl because they do not compete. There's more money for them in the Celebration Bowl that ESPN sponsors than there is in the FCS tournament. But anyway, this is a very good program. And somebody that lines up and takes care of business in the SWAC, the Southwest Athletic Conference.
Number 13 is Southern Illinois from the Missouri Valley Football Conference. They played one of the big boys sort of big boys in Purdue. Well, getting bigger as we
Yes.
speak. They're 1-1, and number 12, New Hampshire from the. It's not the Colonial anymore, is it?
No, and that's my fault because it's been too many years.
I like the Colonial. I like the idea of a little history here.
Well, I mean, if you're dyslexic, when you're talking about the ACC, the AAC, and then the CAA, you can get confused easily.
What's it called now?
It's the Coastal.
Coastal, yes.
Yes, and
but
that's
it's still the CAA, right?
Yes, that didn't change.
But I was thinking CAA. I always think Colonial, and they should have kept it that way, in my opinion. But you got New Hampshire number 12 and Southern Illinois number 13.
Yeah, Southern. I grew up in Illinois, and Southern. When I was in high school, they were one of the best baseball schools in the country. I mean, they would play with Arizona State, anybody, and they were a threat to beat them. And when you look at that program, I've seen them play over the years a few times. They're very athletic. And so, when you watch them, the fact that they played Purdue respectable, and we're not sure how good Purdue is, but we know they're better. Mm-hmm. And yet Southern went over there and played them pretty evenly.
Number 11 from the Big Sky, UC Davis. They got, I hope, a good check as they gave up 70 in their game to Washington. And then number 10, Austin P, who lost to Georgia. And hopefully they got a good check. But they also, as you said earlier, actually battled pretty good an SEC team on the road.
When you look at these teams, Austin P and UC Davis, if you would ask me prior to looking at this, I would have told you that UC Davis is they are a stronger program, but in all likelihood, a better team. When you look at these scores, you're starting to say, wait a minute, what Austin Peay did against Middle Tennessee, and then playing Georgia like that, where they did not let them get away from them, versus what UC Davis experienced at Washington, giving up 70. So we're going to find out more, and we've already talked about Washington maybe the sub team in the Big Ten. So more to follow on this.
Number 9, Illinois State, who is 1-1 after beating Morehead State 41-13. And then Villanova, as we said. Villanova from the Coastal Athletic Association. They started their season off with a win against Colgate 24-17, and they step up big time against Penn State later today.
Yeah, and Colgate played the Syracuse pretty well last night. I was glad to see that Angeli, the quarterback that transferred from Notre Dame, had a big night last night, 5 touchdown passes. And, they had Fran Brown put his starters back in. He was unhappy with the fact that Colgate kept scoring. I think they actually got it back to like 45-24. So he put the fellows back in. So, the reality here with, a Villanova or an Illinois State, those teams are very good.
You had number 7, Montana, who beat Central Washington. And then number 6, Rhode Island, the Rams. Again, another CAA team at number 6.
Yeah, Montana, I'm interested to see what happens with them in Montana State. That is always a great rivalry. And of recent, Montana State has had the better of it. And we're going to talk about a great game they had earlier this year. Rhode Island has often been a mid of the lineup in the Coastal Athletics. Not so lately. They've been near the top. And they're off to a very good start in 2025 here.
Number 5 is Presbyterian. They had a thriller, beating Furman 39-38 in overtime. And number 4, Tarleton State. And they're already 3-0 on the season as they beat, was that Mississippi Valley State?
Yes, Mississippi Valley.
59-3. So Presbyterian and Tarleton State 5-4.
How about Presbyterian? They're in the Pioneer. That's a non-scholarship conference. And Furman is in the SoCon, one of the more highly regarded conferences in the FCS. So for Presbyterian to do that is relatively unprecedented. You don't normally see that, so kudos to them. And then Tarleton State, they beat Army a couple weeks ago, and then Army came back and beat Kansas State. this Tarleton team can play. People don't know about them like they would the North Dakotas or South Dakota States. However, this team is very good and approaching that level.
Number 3, Montana State. Number 2, South Dakota State. And those teams that we talked about last week were facing off against each other. And that game turned out to be everything that one would expect.
Yeah, if you're looking at Montana State, they ended their season in the championship game, which they lost to North Dakota State 35-32. Then they had to open with Oregon. And, you and I talked about Oregon. They got their A game because Oregon struggled with Idaho the year before in the opener. So they brought everything they had to that game. Then they got to turn around and play, South Dakota State, who was, beaten by North Dakota State in the semis of last year. So they are without question the best 0-3 in the last 3 games of any team in the FCS.
We should mention the game was last week, double overtime. South Dakota State won 30-24. So
yeah, that's a minor detail.
Yeah, just let people know.
Yes.
And then number 1, it is North Dakota State, as one tends to notice so often.
Yeah, they won last week 59-3. They played Eddie George's old team, Tennessee State, and the game was down there. They went to Tennessee, and I'll tell you, they took no prisoners. They just went in, and from the get-go, Tennessee State plays in a kind of a hybrid Big South, Ohio Valley Conference, and are a solid team in that league, but they were up against it when North Dakota State showed up.
So that is the FCS top 15 rankings. Before we finish up our number 1 in terms of news around college football, anything jump out that you wanted to mention before we take our top of the hour break and then come back with the 10-game challenge?
I just think in general, I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop with some of the things with NIL or with transfer portal. Or, they've got to make a decision on next year's playoffs by December 1st, or it's going to stay the same. And there's a lot of pressure to get that changed and get to 16 games. And then, of course, as you know, the Big Ten was arguing for a certain model while the
4
SEC,
automatics for them and the SEC. So half the tournament will be automatics, and then Big Ten have their own mini tournament and make it into the NFL because Tony Petitti comes from that world.
And I'm pretty sure that when, Petitti wanted the SEC to go to 9 games, they finally acquiesced. And I would say that's really what he was looking for, because now those SEC teams are going to start beating each other because they've got an extra game. And the SEC coaches really didn't want this. They just thought we're better off staying at 8 because we already have strength of schedule. Ours is stronger than theirs, even though we're playing 8 games. But anyway, that's done now. And so we're going to see what's going to happen next. But I think the Big Ten, because they got the 9 games, will compromise and will go to the model that the ACC, the SEC, and the Big 12 are proponents of.
All right, so we are halfway through this edition of Sully's College Football Page. Coming up, we'll talk about the Group of 5 rankings. We'll have the Power 4 rankings, but coming up next, it is the 10-game challenge, and we'll start off hour number 2 with that in just a few moments here on 98.9 WXCO.
Buck Welsh has been working in the golf business since 1976, became a PGA member in 1984, and has been teaching for over 40 years. His philosophy has always been to work with the individual golfer, building on the way they do things and making them better with what they have to work with. Call Buck at 715-581-2646 or check out the website www.bucksgolfshop.com to get more info about lessons.
Eye Clinic of Wisconsin believes that clear vision and hearing are priceless. Eye Clinic of Wisconsin is equipped to handle all your eye and hearing care needs. When you need specialty and surgical eye care, why not work with the best? Let the team of professionals at Eye Clinic of Wisconsin see you. Eye Clinic of Wisconsin has 7 convenient locations that include Wausau, Antigo, Medford, Merrill, Rhinelander, Stevens Point, and Wisconsin Rapids. Visit their Facebook page or website at www.eyeclinicwi.com. Eye Clinic of Wisconsin, one vision, yours.
As a proud member of the Wausau Marathon, Edgar, and Athens communities, Peterson Kramer Funeral Home has built a reputation for having a deep commitment to personal service. When you need compassionate concern and expert guidance day or night, Peterson Kramer Funeral Home is the one to call. You can trust them to take care of every detail at a time it matters most. Located in Wausau, Marathon, Edgar, and Athens, Peterson Kramer Funeral Home, friends you've trusted and depended on since 1914. Krasowski Dental offers the most effective cosmetic and neuromuscular dentistry procedures and treatments. When you walk through the doors, you'll experience an incredibly comfortable and pleasant atmosphere where you'll be treated like family. Krasowski Dental offers 24-hour emergency service and care so you don't have to wait, and offers many of the newest dental technologies and perks to make your dental experience comfortable and less stressful. Schedule your appointment now with Krasowski Dental, North 17th Avenue, Wausau.
Don't you just love a good football game? Don't you just love a new car or a new truck or a new motorcycle? And don't you just love saving money? Then you'll love Clover Belt Credit Union, your go-to team for saving money with a great rate vehicle loan. Great rates are what make Clover Belt the leader in vehicle loans. Cars, trucks, motorcycles, ATVs. If it's got a motor and it rolls on wheels, Clover Belt Credit Union has the great rate financing you want. Give us a call and we'll get your great rate loan rolling. Clover Belt Credit Union, your team for great rates.
The Dirks Group started in 1999 as an alternative to traditional IT service providers. From the start, they focused on customized solutions for the needs of each client. Today, they serve over 400 customers from locations in Wausau and Eau Claire. Go to dirksgroup.com for more information.
Charity's Bar in Marathon City. Great food, great service, a great place to meet friends. Come on down and watch the game or just hang out. It's Charity's Bar on County Road and in Marathon City.
Witness the difference at Newman Catholic Schools, where education is embraced by the Christian faith and students are held to a high standard of academic excellence. Schedule a tour and learn what it means to be a Newman Catholic Cardinal. Visit newmancatholicschools.com to learn more.
WXCO 1230 AM, W255DN Wausau, streaming at bullfallsradio.com.
And welcome back. It's Sully's College Football Page on 98.9 WXCO, online at WXCO.FM, mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app. I'm Chad Holmes, along with Sully. And Sully, it's time again for the 10-game challenge. And today, you not only have one of your sponsors with us, you have two.
We got two of the best sponsors that we've had. They've been with us since the get-go. You know, Joe Rader from Joe Rader Towing and Joey Popowski, who was the former owner of the Mint, but still is there making sure things are going to what has become the Mint standard. Only the Rick's place in Casablanca is slightly ahead of the Mint. So, yeah, it's great to have you guys. And I just want to mention that we this year we're at $1,250 that we're able to give to charitable and nonprofits in the city, and that is directly related to your sponsorship. So on behalf of them, XCO, Sully's College Football Page, we want to say thank you for your sponsorship and allowing us to be able to contribute to some very worthy organizations in the city.
And gentlemen, I guess we'll start before we get into the games. First of all, either one that wants to start, talk a little bit about your business. Who should we start with, Saul?
Well, we should probably start with Joe, since Joe is the senior guy here. Yeah, well, this Joe, while I was pointing.
Yeah, I'm Joe from Joe Rader Towing, and we've been in business, I guess, about 23 years now. I started when I was 57, so I'm going to be 80 next week. So,
oh, very good.
Things are going great.
Terrific. And what about the Mint, Joe? Joe P.
Joe P. Well, my wife and I operated the Mint from 1990 to just a couple of years ago when we turned the reins over to my chef who had been with us for 18 years, Joe, and his wife, Sherry. So they have taken over last year and continued the excellence in the food and service and catering that we built over the years.
So many Joes.
Yeah, well, and I can tell you, Joe, I can't tell you, Joe Rader, how many people you have helped in need. You know, when you get broke down in the winter and you're not sure, there's always you and your staff, and you guys have done great job there.
Oh, yeah. I'm very fortunate. I got a son and a daughter who are running the business. I'm like the mailman. I help out with all the small jobs.
Yeah, well, you're up front, Joe. I see you in there. And Joe, you know, you think of the quality of your restaurant and the way you grew the catering business. And I know the work you do at our St. Patrick's Day party
Absolutely.
is off the shelves good, you know.
Highlight of our year.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. Okay,
All right,
Chad.
let's jump right in now for our 10-game challenge. We're going to again start from the bottom, Sol. We're going to work our way from the bottom to the top in terms of the quality of the games. I think not to say that Alabama and Wisconsin does have potential to be a low quality, but that's where we're going to start. Alabama hosting Wisconsin, and we always start with our guests. So Joe or Joe, and then Joe and Joe. Who do you like?
Well, I'll jump in first. I'm definitely a Wisconsin guy, but a guy's got to really realize what's going to happen today, and I'm not very confident, so I'm going to take Alabama.
And Joe, where are you at? Are you with them on that?
I agree with that.
Okay.
Yes.
And I got to tell you guys, it would be too much of a stretch, even though we're all Badger homers, in this game to take Wisconsin based on how things have gone up to this point. So I'm with you. I'm going with the Tide in this game.
All right, our next game has Washington State and North Texas. So is that the Mean Green?
That is the Mean Green.
Sully, we'll go with you first.
Okay, now, I think most people would look at this, and on the surface, you think Washington State's a Power 4. They were part of the Power 5 when they were in the Pac-12. But the Mean Green is actually favored in this game, and I've seen them play a couple of times in part this year. So I'm going to go with the Mean Green to get after Washington State and get this done out there in Pullman.
All right, we'll go to Joe and Joe.
Or Seattle. No, Pullman, that's right.
Well, so I agree with you. I know the Mean Green is favored, but I'm going to go the other direction. I'm going to take the underdog, Washington State.
Okay.
Okay, I'll take the Mean Green.
Okay, so we got the Mean Green 2, and we got the Washington State here at 1.
All right, our next game is what do you call this? Is it the Backyard Brawl?
Yes. Yes.
That's West Virginia and Pittsburgh. Rich Rodriguez's honeymoon may have been short-circuited last week with a loss. Was it to Ohio, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah.
Yep, it was West Virginia going on the road and losing to a MAC team. So not a good loss for a Big 12 team, but Pittsburgh for the ACC, West Virginia from the Big 12. And we'll start with our guests, Joe and Joe.
Go up, Joe.
I'll go with West Virginia.
Okay.
I'm going to follow suit. I think West Virginia is going to bounce back and take it this week.
You know, I think that Pat Narduzzi has got one of the worst dispositions in terms of getting after things than anyone else in college football. So I'm going to say in this kind of environment, a backyard brawl, I'm going to take Narduzzi's guys. So I'm going to separate here. I'm going to go with Pitt.
All right, coming up next. Last week, we're talking about this run for South Florida, facing Florida and Miami back-to-back. They took care of business last week, winning in the swamp against Florida, and now South Florida will try to make it 2 in a row against their, we call them big brothers in the state of Florida, taking on Miami. So Miami hosting South Florida. Sully, what do you think?
Well, I'll tell you what. South Florida started the year. They beat Boise, which really surprised us. And not only did they beat them, Chad, they slapped them around. They beat them like 34-6. And then they come and they're a 17-point, dog to Florida, and they beat them. But not this time. This time, Miami is completely aware of the dangers of playing this in-state rival. So I like Miami to get this done against South Florida later today.
Okay, Joe and Joe. What are your picks?
Yeah, so I definitely agree with you there. I think they're going to run into a brick wall this week, so I'm taking Miami also.
Okay, I agree. I'll take Miami.
Okay.
All right. So we got an ACC matchup, interconference matchup with Georgia Tech, a program that's been on the rise over the last number of years, and Clemson, who struggled just a little bit last week, but able to pull out the victory. So Georgia Tech and Clemson, and we'll start with our guests, Joe and Joe.
I think Clemson's going to be just too tough for them. I'm taking Clemson over Georgia Tech.
Joe?
I want Georgia Tech.
Well, you know what? That Heinz King is one of the best quarterbacks in the country that plays for Georgia Tech. But I'm going to say, Joe, he's been banged up a little bit. And he is definitely going to get rocked by that Clemson defense. And look for their O-line to play as advertised today. So I'm with Joe P here. I'm going to go with Clemson over Tech.
All right, we are halfway through our 10-game challenge. Every week we bring in at least one, but this week two of the sponsors of Sully's college football page, Joe Popowski representing the Mint Cafe and Joe Rader from Joe Rader Towing. And Joe, again, a little bit more information that maybe we missed earlier. Anything you want to add concerning Joe Popowski with the Mint or Joe Rader with Joe Rader Towing?
Well, the only thing I'd like to say, I'd like to thank everybody for all the business we've had. Business has been doing very good. We've had ups and downs, but there again, my wife and my kids, Jamie, Joe, we're all working hard to make things turn.
Anything you would like to add, Joe? Joe Popowski?
Yeah, I would just like to echo on that, kind of that same thing. Fortunate over the year to have a great staff, always had a great staff, great management team. And without that, you just can't do it. So we were very fortunate to have a lot of long-term employees, some over 20 years. So we tip our hats to them.
Yeah, and I know both Jamie and your son, and Joe, I know a lot of your staff because we always start our Saturdays at the Mint. We have an intellectual crowd that gathers down there. That may be somewhat of an exaggeration to use the word intellectual with those guys, but nonetheless, we get exposed to Joe, to your family members, and Joe, to your staff, and I couldn't agree more. And it's one of the reasons that you guys have been both so successful.
Terrific. So we are halfway through the 10-game challenge. Time for the sixth game, and it's a Big Ten conference game coming up later this afternoon at 2:30 as Purdue, who won just one game all of last season, already has won two, trying to make it 3 in a row as they take on 2-0 USC. Game being played in West Lafayette. Purdue and USC. And Sully, you're up first.
I am. Anytime I think of these two teams, I remember, and we talked about it earlier, the last time these teams played, that Purdue won, and it was 1967. And Bob Greasy, you guys may remember Bob. He's famous for his pronunciation of the great state of Wisconsin in the Rose Bowl, where he constantly called them Wisconsin. So people were telling, reminding him that Iowa was west. We were Wisconsin. But nonetheless, I'm going to say the trend is going to continue here, that SC is going to not fall victim to Purdue like they did in the Rose Bowl in 67. So I got SC, guys.
All right, guys, what do you think?
I'm going to follow suit on that SC. I think they're just too big for Purdue this week.
And Joe?
I think Purdue is going to do it.
Oh, very interesting.
Well, Joe, I, even though I took SC, I'm still miffed about Leroy Keys not winning the Heisman in 1967. And if I say that one more time, Chad's probably going to ask me to leave. But that was one of the great, in my opinion, travesties of the Heisman vote. Anyway,
moving on, we will go to an SEC matchup. You got South Carolina and Vanderbilt. Again, these are a couple of programs that are trying to work their way up, and they've been making strides in the last couple of years. South Carolina and Vanderbilt, and we'll start with our guests, Joe and Joe. Who do you got?
I think I think I'm going with Vanderbilt over South Carolina this week. I think they've got it in them, and I'm going to take Vanderbilt.
Joe?
I think South Carolina all the way.
Well, the thing about this game is the quarterbacks. Lenora Sellers is 6'4", 245 pounds. The guy is an absolute beefsteak, and yet he's got a very good arm, and he's pretty nimble. He'll look to extend before he takes off and escapes. And then on the other side, you got Diego Pavier, who has changed Vanderbilt. I mean, they beat Vatek a couple weeks ago pretty badly. It was like 44-24 or something. However, I think I'm going to stay with South Carolina because they're home. So I'm going to take the Gamecocks in this one.
All right. And of course, it wouldn't be a Sully's 10-game challenge if whoever Notre Dame is happening to play this week is not part of it. And this week, Notre Dame is home. And just to add a little more Notre Dame spice to it, facing a former Golden Domer with the head coach of Texas A&M comes into town. So Texas A&M at Notre Dame and Sully, right?
Yes. This is, are we on 8? We're on 8.
This is 8.
Yeah, Mike Elko, the current coach of Texas A&M, was assistant at Notre Dame, one of Kelly's assistants. Outstanding coach. He left Notre Dame to take an assistant's job at Texas A&M. And Kelly had a rule back then. If you left Notre Dame for a parallel position, like going from a coordinator to a coordinator, you immediately dismissed. So I don't know how well that ended, but I doubt it ended real well. And then, of course, he went on to Duke and did great work there. And then A&M invited him back after Fisher left. So really good coach, a guy who was very familiar with Notre Dame. It's not going to matter. However, I am going to make one comment. If C.J. Carr has more carries this week than Jeremiah Love, I'm going to contact Scotland Yard and have an investigation as to what those guys are doing in South Bend.
Joe and Joe, what are your picks?
You know what, Saul? I kind of agree with you on Notre Dame, but I'm just going against you just to kind of ruffle your feathers. Texas A&M all the way.
Joe, when we worked together at West, I always said you should, or at Newman, you should have went to West, picking against Notre Dame.
And Joe Rader, what about you?
Notre Dame.
Yeah, see, Joe was an all-state player at Newman Catholic. Yes, so there you have it.
Up next, an SEC battle. You got LSU in Florida, and I know Sully's always tooting the horn of Billy Napier, but he's feeling the heat down in Gainesville. LSU and Florida. We'll start with Joe and Joe.
Well, I think it's going to be a battle, but I'm going to go with Florida. I think they're going to come back from their whipping here a little while back, and they're going to take care of LSU.
And Joe Rader?
I agree with Joe Popowski.
You guys are both taking the Florida. Huh? Okay. I'm with you. Florida's going to come in with a vengeance after what happened last week. And yet that game is in Death Valley on Saturday night. And going to Louisiana on a Saturday night is not really good for the record. So I'm going to say that Kelly and LSU continue Florida's woes and get this done tonight.
And another SEC showdown to wrap it up, our 10th game of the 10-game challenge, Tennessee and Georgia. So a massive matchup in the SEC. Sully, what do you got?
Boy, I'll tell you, this is a great game. The quarterback from Georgia, Gunnar Stockton, Chad, he's never played in an environment like this. When they played Notre Dame a year ago, the crowd was about 50-50. Today, you're going to have about 105,000 pretty well lubed up Tennesseans who are going to be making a lot of racket. I don't think it matters. I think Gunnar Stockton and that Georgia defense are going to prevail. I think Georgia's going to get Tennessee.
And Joe and Joe.
Saul, I'm agreeing with you there. I think it's going to be a tough environment, but I think Georgia's going to come in and get the job done.
And Joe Rader.
I think Tennessee's going to get it over.
Very, very good. So that's the 10-game challenge. Joe Popowski and Joe Rader. And guys, before we finish things up, Saul, anything you want to ask the guys?
No, just if there's anything else you want to add, because you have been very important to our show. And like I mentioned earlier, the things we've been able to do to help community members. And you guys both personally have directed me to organizations that you thought did real good work in the community, and we're appreciative of that. So anything else that you want to say where we could maybe give back a little bit to you about something you haven't mentioned?
No, I just think, Saul, that you were tying in with the donations to the great causes is just another icing on the cake. So we appreciate that you taking care of all that too.
Yes, I feel the same. Some of the money that we spent, I think, was well spent, and we're happy that we can help.
And I'm glad you guys are here today, as long as I end up winning this challenge. I know Chad he keeps track of stuff here.
You want the results.
There you go. There you go. Gentlemen, thank you for playing the challenge. Yep, we'll keep track of it, because I know when Saul goes over to the Mint before the show next week,
yes,
got to know what's happening here.
Absolutely.
So Joe Rader and Joe Popowski are our guests for the 10-game challenge. We're going to take a time out and then come back and start the rankings with the group of 5. That's coming up next here on 98.9 WXCO.
Where did the good old days go? From going to the old A&W drive-in to cruising the strip in town, all things change. Some things stay consistent. For almost 75 years, Redant Insurance in Rib Mountain has been providing quality service to its customers. One of the oldest agencies in the area. Your family and neighbors come here. Now it's your turn. Call 715-845-9204. Click redantinsurance.com or stop by 227501 Rib Mountain Drive. Redant Insurance Agency, our family helping yours.
Tommy's Express Car Wash at 102 Bridge Street in Wausau and 1611 Schofield Avenue in Weston has the tools and experience to keep your car clean inside and out. Our wash packages let you pay for the services you want, including Tommy Garden Body Wax, wheel cleaning and tire gloss, an underbody flush and spot-free rinse. Give your vehicle the cleaning it deserves at Tommy's Express at 102 Bridge Street in Wausau and 1611 Schofield Avenue in Weston.
Kemp Service Center was established in 1951 and to this day is still family owned. That's 70 years of serving the Wausau area with the best in auto and truck repair. Kemp certified mechanics service all makes and models, including imports. Don't wait to the last minute to get your oil changed. Kemp's can get the job done in no time. Kemp Service Center is open Monday through Saturday at the corner of North 6th Street and East Wausau Avenue in Wausau.
You don't have to choose between personal, hometown service, and the latest banking technology. Brokaw Credit Union has it all. Whether you're looking to finance your first home, grow your savings, or get a new set of wheels, we're here to help. Check us out at brokawcu.com. It's hard to find great Italian food in Wausau unless you're familiar with Carmelo's Italian Restaurant. Established in 1986 by the Oliva family, 3 generations still strive to provide a family atmosphere and fine dining experience. Carmelo's is proud to serve authentic Italian made with fresh ingredients. Their recipes have been handed down from generation to generation. Reservations are recommended Tuesdays through Sundays, and they are closed on Mondays. Carmelo's Italian Restaurant, located at the base of Granite Peak on North Mountain Road, Wausau. Check them out at carmelositalian.com.
And welcome back, Sully's College Football Page on 98.9 WXCO, online at WXCO.FM, mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app. But Sully, I'm Chad Holmes, and time now to go into the rankings, and we're going to start off with the Group of 5 Top 20. Again, if you go to Sully's College Football Page.com, you can catch all the rankings, whether it is through the FCS, the Group of 5, or the Power 4. And 20 teams in the rankings. Let's get right into it. We'll take groups of 3 here.
Okay.
And we'll start off with number 20, Liberty. Liberty lost to Jacksonville State. So I think over the last couple of years, this is as low as we've seen Liberty. Oh, and actually, real fast, Louisiana Tech number 19. And also James Madison, number 18. If we go all 20, we'll be here all day.
Yeah, we will. Louisiana Tech, this is the best they've been since Skip Holtz left there. So they're making a little bit of a comeback this year. They play in Conference USA, which is arguably, Chad, the weakest of the conferences. They're in front of Liberty. And I can tell you, since we started this, they have never been in front of Liberty, but they are this week. And, of course, James Madison is a very good team out of the Sun Belt.
Yeah, they battled Louisville, just losing 28-14. Then number 17 from the Mountain West is Wyoming. You got number 16 from the Mountain West, Hawaii. And number 15 from the MAC, team that is going to be challenged big time later today, Ohio University.
Yeah, Ohio's up against it today.
But they had a big win last week against West Virginia.
They sure did. And, I think that Rich Rod kind of took that on the chin. And, I think people are looking for West Virginia to try to move back to where they were a few years back when he was running it. But like other things, it takes time. He's got to get his players in, and that's going to take a few years. But anyway, Hawaii and Wyoming both have good games today. And Wyoming at this point is unbeaten.
Number 14 is Boise State. They bounced back from their loss to open up to beat Eastern Washington 51-14. You got Jacksonville State. We mentioned they knocked off Liberty last week. And then Fresno State, who knocked off Oregon State. Those Pac-12 teams are having some struggles. But Fresno State up to number 12 from the Mountain West as well.
Yeah, and I always like when Boise plays Eastern Washington, because as many of our listeners know, Boise plays on a blue field. What they probably don't know is that Eastern Washington plays on a red field. And when turf or whatever those experts are called that study those fields, those synthetic fields and artificial turfs that they put in, they were concerned that with moisture, that Eastern Washington's field was going to turn pink. So they've been able to avoid that, Chad. I know you're relieved about that. But nonetheless, those teams are Boise started with a little bit of a shock, but kind of righted the ship, and look for all 3 of these teams to go on, have good seasons.
Number 11, the Air Force Academy from the Mountain West. They're 1-0. They have a trip to Utah State coming up. Army, number 10, they bounced back from that first loss to beat Kansas State. And then North Texas is number 9, and they had an overtime win over Western Michigan, and they have an opportunity against Washington State coming up, as we talked about during the 10-game challenge.
Yeah, and Army, that win against Kansas State was huge. And, they were the ones that lost to Tarleton State. And we just talked about Tarleton. They're ranked 4th in our FCE, the rankings. And they, they're a pretty good team. And, Army lost to them at home, and they were not happy. You could see they went through the line and were fine after, what you'd expect from them, given their discipline. But, man, they came back and they took it to Kansas State this past week.
Real fast. Kansas State lost again last night.
They did.
I mean, see how quickly things can go in the wrong direction. They lost a tough one to Iowa State. They lose a tough one, a 3-point game at Army, and then they lose to Arizona. In college football, there's a thin line, isn't there?
Oh, there really is, Chad. And those are a 3-point loss, followed by a 3-point loss, and then a 7-point or a 6-point loss. So the reality is all of those games could have had a different spin. But nonetheless, there they sit at 0-3, and kind of they're back against it because they're going to run into some pretty good competition in the Big 12.
Appalachian State is 2-0 and number 8 in the Group of 5 rankings. They're getting set for a road trip to a Southern Miss. Texas State beat Texas San Antonio. Big win for Texas State. They're now number 7, and they get a big challenge heading to Arizona State And then finally, number 6 is Navy. And Navy, boy, they just keep on a rolling. They're 2-0 after a win over a UAB, and they get set to take on Tulsa.
Yeah, and how about Appalachian State? They beat Lindenwood, who Stevens Point played a few years ago. Point took them on. Not a good result, but nonetheless, they were involved with these guys. So Appalachian State, Texas State, a year ago, Chad, we were kind of watching them towards the last third of the season, and North Texas thinking, it'd be nice to see those teams in a bowl. Well, it came to fruition. Had a great game with North Texas State and ended up winning. Texas State did. And Navy's Navy. They're just hard to defend.
It's interesting. All 3 of the service academies in your rankings, all within, I think, the top 11. Yep, 3 service academies all in the top 11.
But, and they belong there based on Army got upset. That happens. But then they took that and turned it into a positive, beating a Power 4 team that people did not think they were capable of doing. They did it. And Navy, a year ago, as you remember, they beat Oklahoma in a bowl.
Yep. Number 5, UNLV. They're 3-0. Dan Mullen off to a good start with the Rebs. They knocked off UCLA last week. They had a rather big lead and then were able to hold on for a 30-23 win. Toledo knocked off Western Kentucky. They're 1-1 now, and they are number 4. And the Green Wave of Tulane just got past South Alabama after whipping up on Northwestern in their first game, and they have Duke coming up in a very interesting matchup as well.
Yeah,
so they're number 3.
The Tulane, historically, part of the SEC when it formed, there was another really strong league in the South called the Metro. They were involved in that. So Tulane has always kind of been in the middle of things down south, and people up here may not know their history, but they have great football history. And then are in a great city in terms of being able to attract that Louisiana talent to New Orleans. And then Toledo, the thing we always say about them is speed. When you watch them play, they always, you don't think of Mac as having a lot of speed, but when you watch them, you get that sense. So, and then UNLV with Danny Mullen, he's going to do really good work there because I think he's a good recruiter and he's going to be able to recruit to Vegas.
And then the top 2, you got Memphis at number 2 at 2-0. They beat Georgia State to have Troy on the road coming up, which was never an easy game. And then, of course, number 1, they earned it. South Florida, you talk about earning it. 2 great wins to start off the season and a chance for a third against Miami today.
Yeah, so they're in with one of the best Power 4 programs, and teams certainly this year, and programs over time absolutely as well. Memphis and South Florida, the good thing here is they do play later in this year. They're both members of the American, and at least one of them will play Tulane.
That is the top 20 in the group of 5. And again, you can get all the information, see those rankings, dig a little deeper by going to SullysCollegeFootballPage.com. Coming up next, we'll talk about the group of 4. The top 25 is coming up next here on Sully's College Football Page on 98.9 WXCO.
The Mint Cafe, serving old-fashioned American comfort food in a cozy atmosphere. Whether it's breakfast, lunch, or dinner, your choice is the Mint Cafe. Call ahead for carryouts, deliveries to downtown Wausau, and catering is also available. Check them out at mintcafewausau.com.
Looking for a part for your vehicle? Look to Hilltop Auto Wrecking in Wausau. Hilltop Auto Wrecking can help you find just about any part you need for your car, truck, or SUV. They have a great selection of auto glass and tires with lots of sizes ready to go. Hilltop Auto Wrecking is always looking to buy vehicles, so if you're stuck with an older junker, they can haul it away for cash. Hilltop Auto Wrecking, family owned and operated for over 40 years at 237-934 Del Rio Road, formerly 6806 North 33rd Street, Wausau. Call 715-675-3258. Are you looking to furnish a new home, apartment, or cabin? Are you looking for quality clothing at a reasonable price? Well, if you are, be sure to stop at St. Vincent de Paul at 131 West Thomas Street in Wausau. Make them your first stop, your one-stop shop for furniture, clothing, accessories, home products, and much more. And remember, St. Vincent de Paul in Wausau is more than just a thrift store. It's a local ministry meeting the needs of our community. Your purchases benefit those in need right here at home. So shop St. Vincent de Paul at 131 West Thomas Street in Wausau, where your purchases benefit your neighbors.
Since 1997, Mountain Bay Auto Care has been serving Central Wisconsin with top quality and affordable car repair and service. With ASC certified mechanics. Stop by 5702 Stella Avenue in Schofield or call 715-355-8646. The warmth of your home is about making memories with family and friends and enjoying life celebrations. At Menzner Hardwoods Marathon, they understand the importance of bringing warmth to a place you call home. For over a century, their fifth-generation family business has been creating beautiful woodwork for the home and office, just as they have for over 130 years. Menzner Hardwoods looks forward to providing you with elegant wood products to enhance the beauty of your home or office. Visit them at menznerhardwoods.com. Menzner Hardwoods, timeless beauty for your home or office. The Eat Fresh Refresh doesn't stop at your local Wausau Subways. When the urge hits, make sure to stop by any of the 4 Wausau Subway locations at 1609 Merrill Avenue, 330 East Bridge Street, 1819 West Stewart Avenue, and 4300 Rib Mountain Drive in Walmart. Catering, remote ordering, curbside pickup, and Subway delivery all available. And make sure to use the Subway app when you need Subway. Subway with 4 Wausau locations.
Buck's Golf Shop for all of your golfing needs. Located at 903 Grand Avenue, Suite C8, Rothschild, Wisconsin, 54474 in the Bushka & Bushka Insurance Building on the east side. Specializing in Badger, Bucks, Brewer, and Packer golf-related items. Green Tag sale is 30% off the retail price. Call 715-581-2646 or email wellsgolf@pcpros.net.
At People's State Bank, we think checking accounts are like SUVs. That's why we offer more features to fuel your lifestyle. The best part? You can open an account without leaving your driveway. Just visit bankpeoples.com today. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
It's Sully's College Football Page on 98.9 WXCO, WXCO.FM, mobile devices, and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app. Also on YouTube at youtube.com and the 98.9 WXCO channel there as well. Time now to talk about the Power Four, the top 25 teams. Again, if you go to SullysCollegeFootballPage.com, you can get all the information on these teams and conferences as well. But let's start off with the bottom 3 of this, and it's the SEC. You got 3 SEC teams all starting 2-0. You got Texas A&M. They have an opportunity, if they take care of business later today, to move on up if they have Notre Dame. But 25th are the Aggies. Then number 24, Missouri. They had a really good win last week against Kansas. Kansas, a very good football team. Kansas jumped out to an early lead, but Missouri came back and beat them 42-31. They have the Raging Cajuns of Louisiana next. And then Auburn is 2-0 after knocking off Ball State, and they'll take on South Alabama coming up next.
Yeah, you know, and Jalen Daniels, the quarterback at Kansas, not be confused with Jaden Daniels, who was at LSU a couple years ago. This guy can be a nightmare, and they jumped on Missouri right away, but Missouri just kept battling and did an admirable job of keeping this kid inside of him, in front of him, because if he gets outside or behind you, chances are you're not catching him. And so, big win. I thought Eli Drinkwitz, staff, and the players stepped up. A&M, big game. Mike Elko is not going to be mystified or caught up in the Golden Dome or touchdown Jesus. He's been there. And I'll tell you, they're a very dangerous team. Notre Dame better be careful in this game or they're going to go to 0-2. And then Auburn, Freeze is gradually getting them back to where they are. They're pretty formidable now.
Number 22 is Nebraska. They whipped up on Akron 68-0. They should do the same against Houston Christian today. Number 21 is Utah, and Utah off to a very good start, beating UCLA and then Cal Poly last week 63-3. But one of those old Mountain West matchups. They will have a non-conference game at their old rivals Wyoming.
Yes.
And Ole Miss and they had an entertaining game against Kentucky last week, a very tight game. And in the end, Ole Miss able to knock off Kentucky and Lexington 30-23. And up next, Arkansas in a very intriguing matchup as well.
Well, we thought about putting that in the 10-game challenge because that's a good game. Sam Pittman really needs to win a game like this because, they're just struggling. And if you ever heard him speak, he's a great guy. I mean, guys like that you pull for. And the guy on the other side is Peck's bad boy. Kipfen's always doing something that's on the periphery of being maybe not exactly within the rules, like his fake injuries last year. But anyway, good games there. And this Ole Miss Arkansas game, I have a definite interest in.
Then you have coming up after that, number 19 is Michigan. They take a dip after falling to Oklahoma 24-13. They have that game against Central Michigan coming up. USC up to number 18. They took no pity on their former head coach Clay Helton last week, defeating Georgia Southern 59-20. They have Purdue coming up today. And then the Alabama Crimson Tide, 1-1 after beating Louisiana Monroe 73-0. For everybody's sake, that better not happen today when Wisconsin comes to town.
Yeah, and Chad, I took like a longer, more detailed look at Alabama as we're getting ready to play them here. They're better than I thought. When you look at the access to talent that they can put on the field, I mean, it is impressive. So that loss to Florida State maybe has woken up the echoes. Maybe they're gonna start to think, hey, we need to circle the wagons here and start to get this protected, this thing that we've built. So really a good program, anxious to see what they do. And I am fearful we may get some of that focused later, in about 25 minutes.
Number 16 is Indiana. We talked about their whip of their in-state rivals, Indiana State, last night. Tennessee, number 15. They put up a 72 spot against East Tennessee State last week. I don't think they'll get 72 in their next game, which is Georgia today. And then South Carolina ahead of Tennessee, which is interesting, as South Carolina undefeated heading into their game against Vandy.
Yeah, I think that the Georgia fans were offended by Tennessee scoring that many points, I think, because they were all on YouTube and some of those channels that they appear on. They were pretty vocal about they can't do that to anybody that's any good, or anybody that's on their level. So a very interesting game, between those two this afternoon. That Tennessee crowd is going to be worth a look-see. South Carolina, if you haven't seen Lenore's Sellers, you really need to watch this game because that kid's something else. And those teams are all going to be on display today.
Number 13 is Clemson. And boy, they were behind for quite a bit of the game against Troy last week, but in the end, they beat them 27-16. And now a very tough road game at Georgia Tech coming up. You have Florida State, number 12. A little bit of a easier second game, as after beating Alabama, they knocked off East Texas A&M 77-3, and Illinois up to number 11. And again, I was very impressed that went into Duke last week, especially in the second half, where they scored the most second half points they have in many a year, winning 45-19. So Illinois facing Western Michigan next, but three intriguing schools, I would say.
One of the things that I was, interested in seeing was whether or not Haynes King was going to play. And he is playing for Georgia Tech. And the other thing, Chad, in looking at the game, I didn't realize Georgia Tech has the lead in this series 50-36. I mean, they have a pretty commanding lead over Clemson. And I think that's when Clemson, the term cleansing, where you do things like Murphy's Law. But that term is Dabo got rid of that.
So that is 25-11. But next, we are going to talk about the top 10 teams in the country and find out how Sully's top 10 compares maybe to what your top 10 is, and that'll be straight ahead. It's Sully's College Football Page on 98.9 WXCO.
Crab River Golf Course in Wausau is a unique 18-hole public course. The relaxed atmosphere and breathtaking Northwood scenery is sure to make your golfing day a satisfying experience. For membership information and tee times, call Crab River Golf Course at 715-675-3044.
France Propane at 1153 Foundry Street in Schofield is a local family-owned complete service company serving central Wisconsin for over 2 generations. France Propane is a value-driven company whose goal every day is to provide excellent service, maintain the highest safety, reliability in customer care, and competitive pricing. France Propane, service first, safety always. Check out France Propane at francepropane.com. For over 30 years, Webco has worked with corporations, schools, organizations on their apparel and promotional needs. Webco can handle small quantities to orders in the thousands with a fast turnaround. Webco of Wausau, 1405 West Thomas Street.
The Central Wisconsin School of Ballet is celebrating over 52 years of dance instruction. They offer classes in ballet, jazz, contemporary, modern, tap, and musical theater for ages 2 to 99. And did you know that ballet is used by college football teams as a conditioning and cross-training program? Stop in for a trial class, call for a brochure, or email your questions to the studio.
North End Pub, cold beer, clever conversation, all stories cross-referenced for validity. If you're looking for a nice spot to hang with friends, North End Pub will do the trick. Stop in for thirst relief today. North End Pub, North 3rd Avenue, Wausau.
Big Fat Designs can give your company the cutting-edge look it needs to attract customers and stand out from the rest. From websites and print designs to logos and letterheads, Big Fat Designs is your effective and affordable marketing solution. E-commerce, online customer database, video and audio players, Big Fat Designs does it all. And the best part, you deal with someone locally to talk with, to meet with, working hands-on towards your success. Big Fat Designs in Wausau. Find out more online at bigfatdesigns.com.
Witness the difference at Newman Catholic Schools, where education is embraced by the Christian faith and students are held to a high standard of academic excellence. Schedule a tour and learn what it means to be a Newman Catholic Cardinal. Visit newmancatholicschools.com to learn more.
It's almost Halloween, and Wausau Dance Theater's Thriller, a dance spectacular, is back to thrill audiences once again. Join us Saturday, October 18th at 1:30 and 7 p.m. at the UWSP at Wausau James F. Benega Theater. Come see ghosts, mummies, vampires, and more. Bring the whole family, wear your costumes, and get ready for a frightfully fun performance that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Tickets and info at the Central Wisconsin School of Ballet. Call 715-842-3606 today.
And welcome back. It is Sully's College Football Page on 98.9 WXCO, online at WXCO.FM, mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app. With Sully, I'm Chad Holmes. It's time now for the top 10 teams in the Power 4, according to Sully's College Football Page.com. Again, check out the site for all the information you need on hundreds of college football teams, not just the big ones, but everybody.
You know, and I think it's always interesting when you're on the site to look at the portal and you start to see how many players teams have brought in. And you might be surprised to see that there's a couple teams that have brought in over 50 players, for this season. And, LSU may have won the Clemson game in the offseason. They brought in 19 transfer portal players, 12 of whom were 4-stars, Chad. So it's kind of changed things, and it does certainly impact rankings.
Number 10 is Iowa State. They had a big win against Iowa 16-13 last week, and they're kind of the opposite of Kansas State. They've won a couple of close games, and all of a sudden they're number 10 in the country.
Yeah, and there's not a lot of difference between Iowa State and Kansas State. And I would say to you, if Kansas State played them at home, I'm not sure they wouldn't be favored because the games have been that tight. But nonetheless, we've always liked Matty Campbell, good coach, and he's doing good work and continues to do good work at Iowa State.
Absolutely. And you have at number 9, Oklahoma. It looks like Oklahoma back where they think they belong. They earned a big win against Michigan last week. And next, interesting, Oklahoma heading to Philadelphia, be on the road against Temple.
Yeah, people are all talking about how shocked they were they did that. You and I touched on it earlier. Sometimes I think coaches like to get a routine on the road done in a game that they feel that confident that they can go out and beat Temple. So this could be a procedural thing for later in the season.
Is Oklahoma that good?
Oklahoma is very good. Their defensive line and O-lines are solid. And, that game against Michigan, Oklahoma made a couple of miscues that kept it closer. They pretty much dominated Michigan from the get-go.
Number 8, still in the top 10, is Notre Dame, but still looking for their first win of the season.
Yeah, Notre Dame might be the only team I've ever had ranked that hasn't had a win yet.
At this point.
Yeah, well.
They haven't played very much.
And the team that beat them was a very close game, but nonetheless, Notre Dame needs to step up today, and they need to step up solidly. And somebody better tell them they need to get that running game going. And they got a guy named Jadarian Price, who is, in my opinion, is quite capable of being an All-American. But you got to give him the ball.
Mm-hmm. And you don't want to be 0-2. I mean, last season, they were put themselves in a position where they have to win out. If they lose today, they probably have to win out, right?
Yeah, and then flip a coin, because at 10-2, given who they would have beaten and who they would have lost to, because Miami could lose some games in the ACC to Florida State and Clemson, and certainly A&M can get beat in the SEC. So 10-2 may not get you in. 11-1 will, but 10-2, they better be careful about today.
Number 7 is the team that defeated Notre Dame in the season opener, Miami. And they're 2-0 after beating Notre Dame and then Bethune-Cookman. And now South Florida comes to town.
Yeah, and South Florida might as well come into town shooting cannons, because they are not walking in the back door. Everybody knows what they've done. The line on this game is almost identical to the Florida line. I do think that Miami is better than Florida. And I look for South Florida. If they win this game, then they're better than even we think, and we've got them ranked number 1 in a group of 5.
You got Texas at number 6, 1-1. Of course, they lost to Ohio State, but they bounced back to beat San Jose State. Got an in-state rival, Texas El Paso, coming up next. Texas 41.5-point favorites.
Yeah, and this Texas El Paso is better this year, but this will not matter. Texas is, they're a little bit like the circumstance that Notre Dame was in, except they can win a conference, which changes things, because even if they were to lose, 2 or even 3 games, they win the league they're in. But nonetheless, they're going to come after Texas El Paso. No mistakes here.
You got Georgia at number 5. Again, they have Tennessee coming up. It's a 2:30 game on ABC this afternoon. Georgia 3.5-point favorites. We've talked a little bit about this one, but boy, this one will kind of set a tone early on in the SEC, won't it?
I think it will. And this is, in my opinion, this is the day's best game. And this Tennessee crowd, they tried to take over the Horseshoe when they played Ohio State last year. They probably objected Georgia getting any tickets. So this is going to be, the crowd in itself, I think, Chad, is worth watching.
Then you have at number 4, Penn State. Again, 2-0, but they haven't played anybody. They probably will not. We can say the same thing as good as Villanova is in terms of FCS competition. But at the same time, we're going to have to wait, I guess, for Penn State, and that you've had them kind of trickling down your rankings the first few weeks.
And, you and I have said that you cannot, with preseason rankings,
can't be wedded to them.
Yes. And you have to be willing to rate and rank people based on what you're seeing. The eye test. And if, in fact, teams are lining up, taking chances like Texas did going to the shoe, you've got to recognize that. They're not going to fall very far. I guarantee you, if Penn State had slipped and lost one of these they would not be in the top 10. You you cannot do what they've done and not look like you're completely in control.
Absolutely. Then at number 3, LSU. And again, some pressure this year on Brian Kelly. So far, he's been able to do what he needed to do. Got that week 1 win. Louisiana Tech 23-7, not overwhelming, but Florida next. And it seems high to me, just to be honest with you. LSU. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't exactly a 21st century game where they beat Clemson and then 23-7 against La Tech. Why do you have them so high?
Because of the Clemson game, and I do think Clemson is better than what people are saying nationally. We're going to find
Troy
out more.
didn't seem to think they were that good last week.
Who's that?
Troy. Because they were down. I mean, they were down by a couple of scores in that game. So
and you're talking 18 to 22-year-olds.
That's true.
I don't know if they were pouting or what they were doing, but they did score the next 27 or whatever it was and shut out Troy. And the other thing is, Troy, people aren't going to know them up here, but they've had a history of being a pretty good program over the years. Now, that doesn't mean that LSU should have, or Clemson should have struggled with them. They should not have.
Then Big Ten, again, at the top. You got Oregon at number 2. And to do what they did against a Power 4 conference opponent like Oklahoma State last week, that was a statement.
Yeah, and I don't know that we shouldn't have made them one. They just went and took care of business. It was like Oklahoma State looked like an FCS, very mediocre FCS team. They had no answers yet at any point in that game from the start of it. It looks like they were getting scored on when they were trying to get off the bus. The reality here is that Oregon may, at this point, from a arguable and a very winnable argument, that they are the best team right now in the country.
Yeah, based on the performance on the field, very early, very, very, very early. But boy, I don't think anybody's probably played 8 better quarters than Oregon has played so far this
All right,
year.
now I'm going to whet your appetite here. Not next week, but the week after. Oregon goes to Happy Valley, and they got the whiteout waiting for them. Huge game in 2 weeks in the Big Ten.
Massive. And Ohio State 2-0. Of course, they had that old-time football kind of 14-7 win against Texas to start it off, and then they roughed up Grambling 70-0. They got Ohio U coming in. Ohio State, again, is it one of those cases where, the crown is on their head? So they've proven with that Texas win that somebody's got to knock them off before they go down anything below number 1.
Yeah, well, the best thing that Grambling did in that Ohio State game was bring their band. Their band had a very good halftime presentation. Ohio State just came out and they were going to take care of business, and it was no let down, no sideways. These guys aren't there. No, they went after him and just put it on him right away. When you're talking Grambling, there was a time when Notre Dame was at the top of the college football world. What people didn't realize is Grambling was putting more guys in the NFL than Notre Dame was. And they were, playing in that FCS stuff. So anyway, the reality here is this is a great team. And at this point, we decided to keep them right where they were, even though Oregon is not knocking, they're hammering on the door.
So there you got it, all the rankings, the FCS, the group of 5, and the Power 4. And again, if you want more information, if you want to just recap these numbers, you can go to sullyscollegefootballpage.com and be able to just take a look at where everybody stands at this early point of the season. So we got about 2 minutes to go before we wrap it up and people can turn on their TVs to ABC.
Well, we got the Badgers coming here in a couple minutes.
So the Badgers in Alabama, and you were saying it, and again, Badger fans a little nervous if Alabama's a little better than you thought.
Yeah, they are. I mean, when you look at them, they're always good, but I didn't realize how much talent they still have. And if they can get refocused, they can be right there at the end. They're quite capable.
And also, when you do change offensive coordinators, and I know Ryan Grubb had worked with Caden DeBoer a lot in his previous stops, but for these players, it's a new system. It's going to take a little bit of time, isn't it? It'll be interesting to see how that offense develops as the season continues.
That's a good point, Chad, because I think if you say, from a coaching standpoint, and you look at it, say, through a realtor's eyes, they always hear the real estate business say location, location, location. I would tell you from a coach's perspective, the first thing you're trying to do is build relationship with your players. And he's new. And so it's going to take a little time for that to occur. And then, the changes that are going to occur. So, I think that he is going to be as advertised. But I think you're right when you say, "Hey, it's going to take some time."
And then finally, I know tonight the NBC moved the Big Ten out of their primetime slot because they said we're going to put Sully's favorite team, or one of his favorite teams, Notre Dame, into the primetime slot against A&M. And we talked a bit about it, but that's for you Notre Dame fans, it'll be a little nervous time tonight.
Is that on Peacock?
It's on NBC/Peacock.
Okay,
it's on both.
NBC. Has been trying to sell Peacock for a while. And, Notre Dame clearly has helped them, unless you do it what my son does,
right.
buy it and then cancel it right after. But then the Big Ten, that was a coup.
So that's going to do it. Lots of great football to watch. Sully, we'll talk all about this week. Look at the next week. Week.
Looking forward to seeing you already, Chad.
Thanks for joining us.
WXCO 1230 AM, W255DN Wausau, streaming at bullfallsradio.com.